Hey, me and Matt here. This is Kyle, and this is our intro for, well, it's Royal Rumble season, so
Yep.
you know what that means.
Look back at previous Royal Rumble.
Yep. So tonight we are going to be talking about 1988, the beginning of the Royal Rumble. So, after,
Yeah.
it's gonna be time.
Oh, hell yeah.
First video in 2003, motherfuckers. Let's get it on.
2023.
Foul! Yes. Hey, me and Matt here, and this is Killer Kyle, and welcome to another episode, the very first episode of 2023.
WHEELZ this year.
Hell yeah. We start off the very first installment of the Royal Rumble series. Yes, I figured we will bring back these things again.
Mm-hmm.
When we did this in the past, we talked about Royal Rumbles and the Royal Rumble season. WrestleMania's at the WrestleMania season, so's on, so's forth.
Yeah.
So we start off with Royal Rumble 1988.
Where it all began.
Yes. And it's kind of funny because it's televised and it has the Royal Rumble in the second last match.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't necessarily a pay-per-view at this point.
No.
I think it was on Monday as well.
Probably, yeah.
But Hamilton, Ontario, Cops Coliseum.
Yep.
What a good show to start my second major. Actually, it would be third because the Survivor Series was a year before. Whatever.
Yeah.
Start off the first of many in Ontario, Canada.
Right? Yeah, Hamilton was the location of the very first Royal Rumble. And, you know, the people that participated in the Royal Rumble that year, you know, you had One Man Gang, Don Rocco, Junkyard Dog, Dino Bravo, and Dave's Danny Davis, a whole bunch of others.
Yeah. And I mean, there was because this was a televised program, you had things like the weightlifting of Dino Bravo. We had Frenchie in this corner. I'm not sure how much he pressed,
Yeah.
but anyways. Then you also had the contract signing for Hogan and Andre the Giant
Yep.
for the title, which I'll look it up in a second to see when it's actually aired, because I don't know if this was in January. I'm not quite sure.
I don't know if it was. I don't think they started having it in January until much later.
Yeah, so it's televised. You have the Royal Rumble match on the second last, which you have a couple shows like that too.
Yeah.
And it's not in January. Well, I'll check it out in a second.
Yeah.
But one of the experiments that was brought on by Pat Patterson, and I mean, Pat was one of those guys who started out in wrestling in the late 50s. He became a commentator for Vince McMahon. He was the first Intercontinental Champion.
Yes.
And so, for him to, well, for Vince to have trust in him to make this whole concept.
Yeah.
And I mean, you had battle royals before
Mm.
in many different companies as well. So it was just a matter of, okay, we'll see how this goes, and if it flies, then once a year, I guess we're gonna have this.
Yeah. It was one of those things where it's like, alright, we'll have the event. If it flops, well, okay, it's worth a shot. If it succeeds, well then it'll be something we do on a regular basis. And here we are now, 32 years later, and it's as well, it's a thing you look forward to heading into WrestleMania.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that.
Well, it's the thing you look forward to at the beginning of the year.
Well, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then once again, we talk about this being a different Royal Rumble than what's gonna come in the near future, but like, your winner doesn't even face the WWF champion.
Not at this point, no.
So, we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I mean, this is cool because it's not very long.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like it would come out to be in a couple more years, or at least a year.
Yeah.
Like I said, this was just a test run, it seems, kind of like WrestleMania 1 in 1985.
Yeah.
Which, spoilers, look back at your series coming soon.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, again, WrestleMania was on a Monday.
Yes.
I'm not quite sure if that event was televised. It probably was.
It was.
Oh, wow, okay.
Closed circuit television, yeah.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing. When the very first Royal Rumble happened in 88, and then 3 years previous, or 2 years previous, you had the very first WrestleMania. You know, this was back in the 80s. Pay-per-view wasn't a thing.
No.
It wasn't until the 90s, basically, that pay-per-view became popular, you could say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, WrestleMania was on closed circuit television, and you would have to go to like their local library or a school maybe, or you know, somewhere where they had television and you could watch it. And I'm not sure if you had to pay to go to watch it at wherever you could watch it or not, but yeah. And then of course Royal Rumble was the same thing. It was on at that point in time, you know, we're tail end of the 80s.
Yeah.
And so television was more prominent, and so you could watch it whenever you felt like it. Well, watching at home, basically. You didn't need to go to, you know, a library or whatever to watch the Royal Rumble.
Well, fun fact, well, useless fact, I was born a year before WrestleMania.
He was born the year before the first WrestleMania. I was born the year after the first Rumble.
Anyhow, let's get rid of the Rumble!
Yeah! So to start things off, you had a match between Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Ravishing Rick Rude.
Oh, yeah. Yes, this was a very good match, and I mean, you look at these two competitors, and Ricky Steamboat is one of those guys that really had a good career, whether it was NWA, or whether it was WCW, WWE. I know he wrestled elsewhere. I think he was a tag team champion with, it might have been Chief J. Strongbow, unless I'm thinking about somebody else.
Ricky Steamboat was partnered with Jay Youngblood.
That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, you have these two different styles, and I mean, Rick Rude was one of those guys who was chiseled out of stone. He always had the saxophone music and his robes, and he had Bobby Heenan.
Yep.
And it was like him coming out to the ring and talking about the inner city spud hogs. And
Yeah.
every town he was in, he would always insult the crowd.
All you fat, out of shape, inner city Canadian sweat hogs or Hamiltonian sweat hogs, whatever the fuck. Keep the noise down while I show your ladies what a real man looks like. And he proceeded to take off his robe and pose and all this other stuff.
Yeah. So, you know, you talk about his career as well, spanning the AWA. You have also this guy who was in WCW. Both him and Steamboat were United States champions. You know, you talk about the Dangerous Alliance, if you will. And I mean, these two put on a clinic. Well, I don't even know what I'm talking about there, but like, you had the Mercy fight, you had Ricky Steamboat do the skin the cat move, which I hadn't seen prior to Jericho. So,
Or Shawn Michaels.
Or Shawn Michaels, yeah. You have where you work on the lower back of Steamboat.
Yeah.
And I mean, this was a good match, unfortunately, ending in disqualification.
Yeah.
So,
And you had a 2 out of 3 falls tag team match with the Jumping Bomb Angels, Norio Tatino, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, and Itsuki Yamazaki versus the Glamour Girls, the team of Judy Martin and Leilani Kai. This was for the WWF Women's Tag Team titles.
oh yes.
Yes, they had Women's Tag Team titles back then.
And I mean, you know, it's too bad they didn't bring them back sooner.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they brought them back when they did. Unfortunately, it hasn't really been a good run with the titles, although they're starting to make them more irrelevant again.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, like Kyle said to me earlier, because I don't know how I forgot about that too. Like, this was a time where take team matches were like 3 falls.
Yeah, 2 out of 3 falls.
Yeah. So, I mean, you had the Judy Martin and Milana Kai with the first fall. The Jumping Bomb Angels did a second fall. And then, of course, they won the Tag Team Championships.
Yes.
And it's too bad that I myself wasn't a fan as a kid of women's wrestling. Like, I would just skim through it,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But when you look at the Japanese style, I mean, you even had that with Medusa Michello.
Oh, yeah.
When she came in as Alundra Blaze, holy shit, the matches that she had.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Leilani Kai, Will Nakano, Bertha Faye, maybe, you know, just...
Well, even if you look at the crop of talent of the ladies back in the 80s, okay? You had your Judy Martin, your Leilani Kai, your Jumping Bomb Angels, your Wendy Rector,
Robin,
your Sherry Martel,
yes.
a slew of others. Here's an interesting, on the trend of, not necessarily useless facts, fun facts, if you will. They, you know, talk about the first Royal Rumble being 2 years, well, 3 years after the first WrestleMania. And you have Leilani Kai, partnered with Judy Martin, in this match, and of course they're the WWF Women's Tag Team Champions at the time. Rewind 3 years prior, WrestleMania 1, you have a match for the WWF Women's Championship. Wendy Rector against
Leilani
Kai.
Hell yeah, brother. And that's the thing, too. I mean, I didn't give him enough credit when I was little, and that's my bad.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, it was all about hair pulling and, like, just catty fights or whatever. So I was dead wrong for the most part. It didn't really start until the Attitude Era.
Yeah, like the women's wrestling in the 90s, and yes, during the Attitude Era, and yeah, there was slaps and hair pulling and this and that and the other thing. When you look at women's wrestling prior to that, there was some good shit.
Especially in Japan.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I mean, they came over to WWF, and the matches that these women would put on, fuck. You would say better than the men even. But I mean, that's the thing. It's too bad that the Jumping Bomb Angels didn't last that long.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Judy Martin, don't know what really happened to her. Lilani Kai, it lasted till the mid-90s at least.
Yeah.
Not sure what happened to her after that, but...
Yeah, not sure what happened to her after that either.
So, but this was a really, really good match. And I think, it's awesome to see the Women's Tag Team Championships back in WWE.
Yes.
At least they're giving them more of a push.
Yeah.
More women's tag teams. That's exactly what they needed.
Oh, for sure,
And
absolutely.
It's just unfortunate that it didn't happen in 2018.
Yeah.
So,
And we go to the match itself, the Royal Rumble match.
yeah.
But, as we all know, Royal Rumble matches are 30, at the time, for a majority of it, 30 men. And then, having the very first women's Royal Rumble match a few years ago, 30 men, 30 women. The first one was only 20.
Yes.
Only 20 men.
Yeah.
And then I believe it was the following year, in '89, that they made it 30 men.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And, looking at the list here of people who was in the match, I named out a few, but yeah, like Bret Hart, Tito Santana, Butch Reed, Jim Neidhart, Jake Roberts, Harley Race, Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, Sam Houston, like I said, Danny Davis, the One Man Gang, Don Morocco, several others, Hillbilly Jim, Nikolai Volkov, Ron Bass, etc., etc. For the concept of the Royal Rumble match itself, and all of these guys, it was actually really good.
Oh God, yeah, I thought so. And that's the thing that made it good, is that you had another unique concept,
Yes.
but eventually turned into a huge deal.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's what the genius of Vince McMahon was, is that you didn't know what way it was going to go. It's like you're gambling on what's going to work. And WrestleMania, if it didn't draw, then you wouldn't have it today.
No.
If the Royal Rumble didn't draw, you wouldn't have it today. You'd still have Battle Royals,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't have the Royal Rumble. And it's a good thing that Pat Patterson was able to get that idea out there,
Yeah.
so we could have this.
Yeah.
And like I said, there was shit in between. You had the signing with Andre and Hogan. You had the thing with Dino Bravo.
Yes.
So, this was a really good match at the Royal Rumble. And the thing that really pisses me off, so you have, was the last two, was One Man Gang with Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Yes.
And Hacksaw had thrown him out to win the Rumble.
Right.
And I understand that it was a little different back then. You didn't know what you were going to do with the winner.
Right.
You could have had a championship match with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And I mentioned this a long time ago when we did our wrestlers that should have been WWF/WWE champion. And I had put Hacksaw Jim Duggan in that list. Here's a guy that came from Mid-South Wrestling. He was not the best, but he had America as his gimmick. Yes, I know, he came out, he had the black tights and everything, and that's what he had in Mid-South, basically. But then it came over, he had the blue outfit on, he had the Old Glory, he had the plywood, 2x4, whatever. And the guy was money. And yeah, maybe he didn't have very memorable feuds. In fact, the only thing that really stands out was his feud with Yokozuna. The guy, I just think there could have been more potential with him. He could have been the WWF champion at some point. Hell, put a United States Championship on him, and WCW, that was fine. But he could have been the WWF champion. Hell, put the Intercontinental Championship on him. But he's everything that Vince McMahon is all about. The United States of America. This guy was the ultimate babyface. And who knows, maybe it didn't work out for reasons.
Maybe.
But the fact of the matter is that this guy should have been a WWF champion. And yes, not everybody can be the champion. But what would it have hurt? Like, seriously. And I know when he came back in 2005, 2006, I want to say,
Yeah.
it was the shits. He was just being silly at this point. But he was worth more than what he had in WWF. And it's just a shame. Like, he was that... Like, he was good. I can't say he was that good. Maybe I'm talking out of my own ass. I don't know.
Was he the greatest in the ring? No. Was he decent in the ring? Yes. Was he over? Absolutely he was over. And, yeah, could there have been potential for him to be, WWF champion? Sure there could have been. At this point in time, I really don't think it was considered to have the winner of the Royal Rumble match face the champion at WrestleMania until probably the following year. Or
Yeah, maybe.
When they had the third one in 90?
Yeah, I would think so. But I mean, at that time too, you had the Ultimate Challenge.
Right.
I mean, that was cool. But the fact is that you could have had a major feud with him.
Yeah.
You could have had him have matches with Andre. In fact, he's had matches with Andre. You could have put him with Rick Rude. You could have put him... Hey, there's another guy that should have been WWF champion. You could have put him with anything. But the fact is, you didn't. You had a missed opportunity with Jim Duggan. Or as Jim Crockett would say, Jim Dugan.
Dugan.
It really baffles me how you take some guys and you don't do shit with them. And yeah, when I make that list, and I made it a couple of years ago, at least some of those people had the Intercontinental title, had the tag team title.
Yeah.
But Jim Duggan had nothing in WWE except for the King gimmick.
Yeah.
It was just worth having, and maybe it was because, he and Iron Sheik got pulled over for marijuana or whatever.
Who knows?
And Vince was pissed off at that too, obviously. So maybe that was it. Maybe it was because they broke kayfabe. Because Jim was a face, Iron Sheik was a heel. And they were riding together, and of course, there was drugs. So that probably killed his push if he ever even had one.
Right.
You just don't know. And it would have been cool to see a title on him in WWF.
Oh, for sure would have. But
Was it a good match? Yeah, it was. And it was cool to see everybody there.
mm-hmm.
It was just, yeah, it was the first Royal Rumble. And the fact that, Jim Duggan actually won.
Mm-hmm.
That could have went far. But it didn't.
Yeah.
So,
And to close out the show, you had another 203 Falls match with the Islanders and the Young Stallions.
yes, you have Tamatonga and Haku.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you got Paul Roma and the other dude,
Jim Powers.
Jim Powers. This was really cool. And again, look at the Islanders. And we all know that Haku is one badass motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
One of the toughest guys, if not the toughest guy, in professional wrestling. You have Tama, who I didn't see a lot of matches with him. And obviously, another guy that's a part of the Samoan Anawahi. I don't even know if he is an Anawahi guy.
I think Haku and Tama were related somehow.
Yeah. But still, and I mean, Jim and Paul were also very good. I don't know if they were underrated.
You could say they were underrated, yes. Because one Young Stallion split up. I think Jim hung around for a little bit, but I think it was only a short period of time. Paul Roma would eventually go over to WCW and have a stint in WCW, and so yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this was a good match. The Islanders won. So, it was cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out the falls in this match. This was cool, and I think that even the Islanders, and I mean, I know Haku had a stellar singles career.
Mm-hmm.
Again, there's another guy that didn't hold a championship, but he was a part of the Heaton family.
Yes.
He also was king
Mm-hmm.
at some point. And then he had that, once again, this is just like Jim Duggan, because he came back in late 2000s with Rikishi, or to team up with Rikishi. So, I mean, it's just one of those things too, where it's like, those guys you think should have been a WWF champion,
Mm-hmm.
and unfortunately, for some reason, it didn't fall through.
Yeah.
So,
Oh well.
well, that was the first installment of Look Back at Royal Rumble.
Mhm.
We have 2 more to go, but this was the very first Royal Rumble. Jeez, this was like, again, a new concept.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would change later on down the line.
Yeah.
I think maybe, I know for the year after this, you had the first 2 as Max and Smash.
Yep.
And then, of course, Hogan went over. But it was still a good process.
Yeah.
Then, of course, like I said, the Ultimate Challenge,
Mm-hmm.
which led it into WrestleMania 6 in Toronto.
Yep.
And then probably one of the best Royal Rumbles, in my opinion, 1992,
Yep.
where you have Ric Flair coming out. Now, obviously, we could have done a bunch more,
Oh yeah, there's so many we could have done.
but I mean, if we continue to do this next year, I mean, we might as well.
They make it an annual thing, if you will.
Yeah, so that'll be pretty cool. But next week is NXT.
New Year's Evil,
Yep.
and then on Friday is Hard to Kill,
Oh God, yeah. So that's gonna be fun.
right?
and then we'll see what happens after that. But, anyways, for Killing Kyle, I mean Matt. And we will see you next time, tough guy.
Ho!